This is Acura's first electric car. It's a two-row midsize SUV, the 2024 ZDX. That's a model name that Acura hasn't used since the early 2010s, and now it's back and completely reimagined. But as a Type S, that's Acura's top performance trim that it's used on the Integra, the TLX, and the MDX. Can it deliver as a heavy, brand new, all-electric car? The ZDX is not an Acura. Underneath and all over, it's a Cadillac Lyriq and a Chevrolet Blazer EV. It's the only Japanese car built by the UAW in Tennessee. The ZDX shares the chassis, battery, powertrains, and much of the interior with those cars. So how different is the ZDX? When Acura first said it was coming back with the ZDX, I thought, yes, it's going to be a crossover coupe from the late 2000s. No, it isn't, but it does look good. I will say that. In photos, I didn't exactly love it. But here, with that kind of inverted pointed nose, the illuminated grille outline, Acura's jewel LEDs that look like a racetrack, it does look cool, it does. And especially with these wheels, 22 inches with gold-colored brake calipers, or the yellow, they're very bright. The brakes are not carbon ceramic like you'd find on a Porsche or BMW with this color, but they are over 15 inches in diameter, which is about 3 inches more than the regular A-spec. And I think, given the weight of this car and the fact that it's rated to tow 3,500 pounds before you're putting anyone in it, these brakes should be standard, but they do look good on these wheels. The rest of the car has the proportions of the Cadillac Lyriq and the Chevrolet Blazer EV, because of course it does, but all the sheet metal is very unique. And on this Type S, you're also getting some extra performance upgrades. Summer tires are an option, but every Type S comes with thicker front and rear anti-roll bars and a quicker steering ratio than the base car. Here's the size comparison you've been looking for. ZDX versus MDX. The biggest change is the wheelbase, 8 extra inches of wheelbase. That's why these wheels and tires are pushed to the furthest corners of the body. It gives it that low squat stance. The ZDX is lower, but it's narrower than the MDX. And even though the wheelbase is longer, the overall length is actually just a bit shorter, so it's a little bit deceiving. The air suspension, though, is a really nice feature. It's also available on the top MDX Type S, and on here it drops the ride height by about 0.6 of an inch when you're parking or if you're in sport mode, and it will raise it from the normal height by about an inch if you're going off-road. The Type S comes with a black painted roof. All the other trims are body color. As a result, with that chrome trim and all that black on this rear quarter panel, some people have called it a hearse. I didn't think that at first, but it does kind of look that way. If you ignore that and just think it's aggression and luxury, well, the back does look pretty nice because you have the Acura chicane LED lighting, which mirrors the front headlights. It's a very wide, low, and squat rear, very chopped off and blocky, unlike a lot of other Acuras. But the lighting and a lot of the body creases do remind me of other Acuras like the MDX. The ZDX has a 102 kilowatt-hour battery pack, a very large one that lets it have an EPA estimated 314 miles if you're ordering the rear-wheel drive A-spec. The dual motor drops that down a bit, and this one, the Type S, is barely 280 miles, not even. The power, now on the A-spec rear-wheel drive, you're getting just over 350 horsepower. With all this weight, it's certainly going to be not as quick as an MDX Type S. But if you're ordering the dual motor all-wheel drive A-spec, check out those numbers, 490 horsepower. On the Type S, it doesn't quite get 500, 499. I don't know how they pulled that one off, but 544 pound-feet of torque. As for EPA fuel economy or electric economy, check out the numbers. The Type S, of course, with these big wheels and all the performance gearing on it, not quite as good, but you're getting close, but not quite 100 mpge. It's not an efficient vehicle because it's still big, it's still an SUV, so if you want those type of numbers, you're gonna have to go to Tesla. Sorry, you're gonna have to do that. As for DC fast charging, it's also decent, up to 190 kilowatt at the peak. To answer the obvious, the ZDX is quite quick. Almost every EV in its top trim feels this way, where you just do that and instantly you're going. It doesn't really peter out that much. You can keep up with most cars. For highway driving, this car's very comfortable. The seats have adjustable bolstering, plenty of room in here, it's very airy. The steering is light. Despite being very, very big tires that are low profile, ride's relatively supple, and you can't hear too much. Just some wind from the mirrors, that's basically it. What I also like is Acura Watch 360 Plus. That's GM Super Cruise. It's built in, not on any other Acura, because there's no other Acura built by General Motors. And this is their best tech feature, it truly is. Works just like it is in other vehicles. You can watch our Escalade reviews, all sorts of other reviews we've had on GMs with this system. Works just as well, automatic lane changes. You got light here right on top of the steering wheel to let you know the status. So Honda and Acura don't have a comparable system at all, and it's the only way you can get it is with this ZDX. For day-to-day cruising, this car is definitely on par with all the other luxury SUVs that are out there, Mercedes, BMW, Audi. It's also very comparable to, say, Nissan, the Nissan Ariya. We've reviewed that one. So there comes to be a point when you're driving these EV crossovers and SUVs where it's tough to distinguish them, especially if you're just motoring about. Very similar type of feel, no matter which automaker you're talking about. On a 106-mile trip in roughly 70-degree weather, the ZDX had one of the most accurate range estimations we've seen on a new EV. Only 2 miles of difference, and the battery went from 61% to 23%. Acura does include one-pedal driving. You can activate it here on the touchscreen. You can set the level. So there's normal, which is actually a decent amount, and high. So if I go up to the next turn and just let off the throttle, not too high, but definitely enough to slow you down. I generally don't like that, but it's nice you can adjust it. And just like in other GM vehicles, there is a left paddle here, and I press and hold it, and I can slow down all the way without using the touchscreen. So even if I have regen off, anytime I hold that paddle, it gives me the same effect. In accelerating, very enjoyable, right? It's certainly much quicker than the Type S MDX. Absolutely. But here's where it's not better. The steering feel, for one. Acura has absolutely perfected this. They're the ones that made the NSX supercar. They've distilled that same steering system onto the TLX Type S and the MDX Type S. None of that carries over here. It's very wooden feeling. The weighting is just, it's very artificial. You don't feel at all connected. And honestly, I felt this just like I was driving the Cadillac Lyriq and the Chevrolet Blazer EV, so it's not that much of a surprise. And even though the Type S has a quicker steering ratio than the A-Spec, it doesn't really feel any more aggressive in terms of how you're driving. It really doesn't. The thing about the ZDX is that yes, it's quick when it's straight. It's quick when the road slightly bends. But then when you really get in on it, it holds its own. But there's no getting around this part. It's 6,000 pounds. That's more than a Ford F-150 Tremor, which I just reviewed. It's more than most full-size pickup trucks. This weighs as much, very close to, an extended Cadillac Escalade. And this is supposed to be a midsize 2-row SUV. It's 1,200 pounds more than an MDX Type S, which we've also reviewed. None of these are things that you can avoid. You can have the most trick suspension and anything you want on it. It's heavy and it's noticeable. Body lean is good. So the air suspension and the adaptive dampers do a very good job of keeping all the roll in check. You don't feel like you're bobbing and weaving, diving, any of that. So I'll give it that. That's very good. But driving the ZDX Type S, I'm never unaware of the weight. And that's never something I've felt in anything Acura has made with a Type S badge, whether it's an SUV or two of their sedans. Again, gentle curves, it's okay. But the fact is, when you increase the speed, which you want to do in the Type S, you don't get any more confidence from the steering. Like, it's there, but like, there's hardly any reaction. The on-center feel is pretty bad. And I say this because this is the Type S, right? This is what Acura bills as their best performance trim. If I was reviewing the base ZDX, say the A-Spec, even the A-Spec dual motor, which has nearly as much power as this Type S, probably wouldn't be saying these things because it's not meant to be the top performance trim, but the Type S is. And I think it's worth asking that question. So Acura has built itself upon super handling all-wheel drive, SHAWD. That's the mechanical torque vectoring axle that's been on their cars since the mid-2000s. There's no mention of that here because this is not an Acura product. General Motors makes this car. As such, it's not even related to other Acuras with this system, considering there's 2 electric motors and no torque vectoring at all, nothing. It's just kind of shocking that for Acura, they weren't even given the option of putting a similar system in here. It's just, the emission is so big because I've driven all of their cars with that system for years, including the MDX Type S. It feels dramatically different. You can feel those cars at closer to their cornering limit really just engage you, tighten the turns. This car does nothing like that. And it's just, that's what really disappoints me as an Acura. I realize that this is their first EV and it's not something they developed, but for $75,000, I'm just really disappointed by that. See, I expect a lot of a car that says Type S on it. And this is horrible. It truly is. Like, the amount of understeer, all the weight just pushing this vehicle to the outside of a turn, this is not performance. I'm sorry. It's quick in a straight line. And the brakes, to be honest, when you get on something this heavy, I don't have the greatest confidence in it. I just don't. I think this is a decent Acura, but this is no Type S. The interior does redeem some of the driving experience. The classic Acura red and black in here and all the aluminum, that's a good start. Plus, on the Type S, you get 16-way power heated front seats and cooled. The ambient lighting and this aluminum door trim, that's pretty nice. And the seats are generally pretty supportive with bolstering, but there's buttons in weird places, like down here. That's the drive mode switch where you think the headlights would be, and the headlight controls are in the screen. Compared to other top Acura models like the MDX, it's not using the same leather, the leatherette, even the plastics. All of them are several grades down. The back of the ZDX is a nice place. Lots of legroom, lots of headroom, lots of light, window shades, the same nice aluminum trim, third zone climate, heated outboard seats, a plug, USB ports. But there really isn't any more room, headroom or legroom, very negligible versus the bigger MDX. Cargo space behind the rear seats, 29 cubic feet, with them folded 62. You can add about a cube if you're getting the A-Spec trims. Now, despite this being a dedicated EV chassis, there's actually significantly less passenger volume and cargo space than the gas-only MDX. An 11.3-inch touchscreen comes standard. There's no touchpad. Thank goodness. Now, this is designed by GM, and it's a really good one. It's designed by Google. It's Google OS, so you get Google Assistant, Google Maps native, which I really like. Everything works really well. But then there's also other GM things like OnStar. Now, that's kind of nice, but again, in the Acura, you don't expect things like that, but you should in the ZDX. What's also unexpected, controls for the head-up display, even the dome light, which is, I think, is really strange that you have to go in here, and the headlights. So at any single time you want to adjust the headlights, you have to tap this icon and adjust it here. Say you turn the car off, well, you lose the screen and you have to turn the car back on just to change the headlights, which could have been a switch. Anyway, that's how cars are these days. The rest of it, pretty decent. You can see, energy info, all the usual stuff, trip. Even the air quality, it's a relatively good day today. That is helpful. You can also adjust the climate controls, including the rear. That's really helpful. Again, this interface is fast, it's quick. The settings are also really easy to adjust. And on this car, there's an 18-speaker Bang & Olufsen stereo. That's pretty cool. Acura has not used them before, and you can use this slider to automatically kind of change how the sound is. They call it Biosonic. Surround 3D. Pretty nice. There's speakers in the roof, all sorts of fun stuff like that. And generally, it's an easy system. I like it. A digital instrument panel comes standard. There's 3 different views, including full screen maps. And for driver assist, although when you have this on, it does not show curves in the road or lanes or other vehicles. I wish it would, because this system is very good. It is based on GM's Super Cruise. And there's a few things you can also change, say on the left side and the right side, but you have to do it in the touchscreen. I'm not gonna show you that because there's not much else you can see. So it's pretty simple, and that's pretty much it. The Acura ZDX starts around $65,000. There are 3 trims. This one, the Type S, with destination, just over $75,000. Included are 3 different packages you can select that could cover the cost of a home charger or give you some DC charging credits, so that's kind of nice. What about competitors? Well, there's the Cadillac Lyriq, the BMW iX, Mercedes EQE SUV, Audi Q6 e-tron, Genesis electrified GB70, and I would argue Acura's own MDX. As a luxury electric crossover, the Acura ZDX does a pretty good job. There's not very many 2-row midsize EVs like this, so there's not too much competition. But as an Acura, I don't think it works well. The MDX offers everything, and I mean everything and more than this car. And truly, if you're an Acura customer, this is not going to cut it, even with all the discounts. I just don't think this is a very compelling offer because Acura has not yet designed the ZDX from the ground up. I think one day they will. They've got more specialty EVs coming down the line, more production EVs that are really, I think, gonna knock our socks off, but for now, this isn't cutting it. What do you think? Do you disagree, agree? Would you buy one? Go to CarGurus.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.